All right, recording started. So we're in good shape. I'm going to go ahead and let's see, bring this back up so I can see what I'm doing. All right, so we're in chapter 10, and let me see how do I do this. Oh, we're doing it from here. No wonder. I'm in the wrong place. Okay, so let's see. Slideshow from current. There we go. That's what I want. That better?
Yes, sir.
All right. So chapter 10, third declension. So you have mastered first and second declension, really, or second declension, both masculine and neuter, and a first declension typically feminine, right? And now, and of course, we are now moving to third declension. I think the reason the book kind of waits for third declension, and there's some instructors that will even wait longer. They'll go ahead and switch to verbs at this point and come to third declension a little later. I think in part that third declension has a lot more variation, a lot more change. Although there's a lot of consistency, and once you understand what's happening, it's not complex. But without recognizing what's happening, you can just be overwhelmed. I know when I first learned third declension, it just threw me for a loop, and it took me a long time to figure it out. So hopefully, we can try to prevent that from happening for you if we can kind of talk through it. Uh, um, and because of time, I'm just going to jump into this. So let's take a minute here and hopefully, very quickly, if you want to walk us through the noun case endings. Now, the case endings, not the stem. We're going to do the 2-1-2 pattern. So, what would be the nominative masculine second declension case ending?
Sigma,
Sigma. All right. So, let's go across. Feminine
none. It ends in an
and
alpha
neuter.
or an eta.
No,
Noon.
not for case ending. It's none, right? It's just the
Yeah,
dash, right?
it's none. But
All
I'm
right.
just saying stem. It stays the
Right.
stem.
Okay. Second declension
Uh,
neuter,
moon.
right? And what about the genitive? You want to sing the song?
Upsilon.
Yeah.
Sigma.
Yep.
And then upsilon.
Yeah. And next?
Uh, iota subscripts.
Well, yeah, we'll just do the iota because we're doing the case ending, so it's just the
But it would
iota.
be a omega iota, eta iota, omega iota for the subscripts.
Yeah, when you're adding the case endings,
Yes,
correct.
sir.
Or when you're
Yes,
adding
sir.
the stem endings, that's correct. Or the connecting vowel, that would be correct. We're just going to do the case endings right now, and
Yes, sir.
you really want to focus on case endings because and this is what I said earlier on. When I learned these, I made the mistake of learning the case endings with the stem endings or connecting vowel, and that's how I memorized it. But when you come to third declension, if you don't know those case endings in of themselves, it can really throw you for a loop. It just makes it a little harder. So we want to focus here now. The iota subscripts, you're correct. When does the iota? Does it always subscript all the time, forever?
If possible.
If possible, what would be the condition to make it possible?
I guess if it had that omega and that eta.
And there are three vowels that are subscript, and there's a
And
commonality
the
between
alpha.
right. And there's commonality between these three vowels. Now, the alpha and the eta and the omega are always long vowels, but the alpha can be long or short. So what
Hmm.
it is, the iota subscripts, if possible. The possibility is when it's connected, coming up against a long vowel. The eta, the omega, and sometimes the alpha. The alpha is sometimes a long vowel, so that's why it subscripts. So what you're going to find when we get to third declension, it will not subscript, and we'll get to that in a minute. So iota, iota, iota. What about the accusative?
And then new.
Yeah, I mean this is not complex. It's a pretty basic pattern, right? You see the pattern. What about the plural in the nominative?
Uh, iota, uh, alpha.
Okay. And what about the genitive plural?
Omicron nu, or not, I mean, omega nu, omega nu, omega nu.
Okay, very good. And what about the dative plural?
Iota sigma, or iota sigma, iota sigma, iota sigma.
All right, and the accusative plural.
Upsilon sigma.
Oh, no, messed up here. Hold on. Uh-huh.
Sigma,
Okay.
and then alpha.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to remember something here and see if I got this right. I'm going to look it up because I can make sure I don't say it wrong. Nope, that's correct. Okay, so that's good. Now, when we get to third declension, we're basically, remember, the second declension follows a given pattern. There's our pattern, right? First declension, and normally a second declension, the words we're going to end, the stem is going to end with an omicron. It's connecting vowel, whatever. So a second declension, its stem is going to end in an omicron. And then you add the case ending to it, right? So you get the omicron sigma, the omicron nu, omicron. Now the alpha, or the first declension, is going to end with an alpha or an eta, right? So
Yes, sir.
be the alpha or the eta. I did the same thing twice. Oh, that's what I meant to do right there. And so forth, right? So basically, our declensions are following a pattern, and the first declension is going to be typically feminine words, and typically have a pattern where the stems end in the alpha or the eta. Second declension, remember the stems end typically follows a pattern where the stem ends in omicron for masculine, and a different pattern for omicron stem for neuter. Okay, makes sense?
Yeah, the 2-1-2.
Yeah, right. So you're reasonably comfortable with that. We're going to do the exact same thing, except we're going to look at a different pattern. This time, the pattern's going to be is when the stem ends in a consonant, not a vowel. It's going to be a consonantal stem ending, and basically, you're kind of doing the exact same thing. You're adding, you're learning the pattern for those third declension masculine versus and feminine words in the third declension and neuter words. Now, a word is not masculine and feminine. It's some third declension words can be masculine, some third declension words can be feminine, and both, whether you're masculine or feminine, third declension, it follows the same pattern. That's all that
Okay.
means. Okay, and then neuter, the third declension is going to follow a different pattern. All right, so that's what we're going to look at today. So let me see. Here we go. All right, so. All right, so as we just mentioned, stems for third declension nouns end in consonants. Third declension nouns have a different set of case endings. It's a different pattern. The functions of those cases in the same is the same in all declensions. In other words, the nominative function is still the subject. The genitive is still the possessive. The dative is still the indirect object. The accusative is still functioning as the direct object. So the function doesn't change. Although the spelling changes, the functions of the case endings don't change. They still, a nominative is still a nominative, an accusative, et cetera, et cetera. That makes sense? I probably said that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So what we're focusing on is working on recognition. That is what it looks like. So a nominative is still going to be the subject. The accusative is still the direct object, etc. But it's now about how do we recognize when it's in a third declension pattern? How do we recognize a nominative versus accusative versus a dative versus genitive kind of thing? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So in that light, so a third declension masculine let's take the word caris. You remember the word caris? You've heard it before, I'm sure. What does it mean? Caris, grace?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard that before. So caris is a third declension. It ends, its consonant, excuse me, its stem ends in a consonant. We're going to get a little more about that, but right now just notice the stem endings. For the singular, whether the word is masculine or feminine, it's going to follow this pattern, right? For the singular, it's going to follow the sigma in the nominative, and it's going to follow the in the neuter. Well, I'm not doing neuter here. I've got the sigma now. Hold a minute. Here's neuter.
Hey, Dave, your iPad is showing like where the speaking is.
Yeah,
Do
I
you
don't know
see
why
that?
it's doing that. I don't know how to get rid of that.
Don't mess it up now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Don't mess it up. I agree with you. I don't know why it's doing that. Hold on a minute. It's coming from the movie recording, I know.
There
So,
it is.
okay, there we go. Oh, because I have the. All right, let me move that out of the
Oh,
way. Okay,
I,
that's what it is. I got it.
now I can see it.
Yeah. All right. So let me look something up real quick to make sure I'm not messing something up here. Hold on a sec. Yeah, I'm not sure why I have this is an error. Pop says I don't know why I have this. This is really just the sigma. Okay, that's all that is. And so a third declension, whether it's a masculine or feminine word, is going to follow the pattern where the nominative is going to end in a sigma. The accusative is going to end in a noon, and it may be an alpha. Okay, there's can be one or the other. The dative is the iota, and the genitive is the omicron sigma. So our notice here the stem is actually ended in a tau, right? Karit. Uh, and we'll get into what happens in a minute. But karit has a consonantal stem ending, so it ends with a tau. And so what happens is it's going to follow this pattern for a masculine word or a feminine word. The nominative is going to have the sigma. The genitive is going to have the omicron sigma. The dative is going to have the iota, and the accusative is going to have either the alpha or the nu, one of the two. Okay, you got that so far, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when you get to the neuter words, right? So we're doing a third declension, masculine, feminine, and here's our neuter word. And when we do our neuter word, it's the nominative will have no ending to it. The genitive will also be the omicron sigma, you see. The dative will also be the iota, right? And the accusative now, why is the accusative going to have no ending? Well, if you remember, what's our noun rule? If the there's whatever's in the nominative singular will be in the accusative singular.
Yeah.
So there will no ending. All right. And you
Yeah.
see a different word. This is from the word phos, or phot is the stem. Then we got a consonantal stem ending. And so we're going to follow this third declension neuter pattern with our no ending, omicron sigma, iota, and accusative no ending. And we'll get to why that's a sigma here in just a moment. Okay.
Yeah.
You see what's happening, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. In the plural, we're going to pull up all of it. So in our plural, it's the same thing, right? Third declension word. There's our third declension case stem ending with the consonantal ending. So this is karis, or from karit. From this is phos, from phot. And the masculine feminine words follow this pattern, and the neuter follows this pattern. Well, the masculine feminine for plural is going to have a epsilon sigma case ending. For the genitive, it's going to have the omega nu case ending. For the dative, it's going to have the sigma iota case ending with what's called a movable nu. Sometimes there, sometimes not. Some people call it an irregular nu. but it's more often referred to as a movable nu. It may or may not be there. And then our accusative is going to have the alpha sigma. For the neuter words that follow a third declension pattern, again, it has our consonantal stem ending. It's following third declension. So that's the key. Third declension, third declension. All right? Masculine, feminine follow this pattern for singular, this pattern for plural, and this pattern for the neuter in the singular and plural. In the neuter for the nominative for the subject is going to be the alpha ending, and you know automatically the accusative is going to be the same ending. All right, and then our genitive is the omega nu, and our plural for the dative is going to be the sigma iota with a movable nu ending. Does that make sense so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when we put it together, you may see some patterns, and that's what I want to try to bring out. All right. You're pretty comfortable with the first and second declension patterns. Now, this third declension pattern for masculine, feminine words and neuter words. So, as we mentioned, the nominative has this singular case ending. For the neuter, there's no case ending. Okay, that's not totally new to you. You've seen that before. The genitive is going to have the omicron sigma for both masculine, feminine, and neuter words. Well, that's not really new either, except you had that before, except it was, that's the Ada. You had that before. Well, I guess not. That is kind of new. So this is a little new, but it's not really complex. Notice the dative singular. Iota, 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 iota. Now here, these iotas are going to subscript if possible. What's if possible? If it's preceded by a long vowel, right? The alpha when it's long, the eta, and the omega, those will subscript. These are going to be preceded by a consonant, right? A kappa, a tau, a delta, whatever. And because it's not a long vowel, these will not subscript. All right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then we have the accusative. It's just going to end either an alpha for the masculine or feminine words, going to end in an alpha or a nu. Well, the nu you're familiar with. You've seen it over and over again. And it's not unusual to see nothing here for neuter words, third declension, because it's going to follow our noun rule pattern. I think it was, I can't remember the rule number, 3 or 4.
Well, it's the same with like the nominative singular second declension. It's a nu in the nominative. It's a nu in the accusative. It's an alpha in the nominative, and
right. And same in the plural. Okay.
Yeah.
And so in the plural, you have your epsilon sigma and the alpha epsilon sigma for the masculine and feminine words, and the alpha for the neuter words. The omega nu, very consistent all the time. It's genitive plural. If you can't recognize that, you might as well just learn Hebrew, which you will. Okay, so it's really quite simple, pretty easy. Now, notice the dative plural. You learned dative plural, iota sigma, iota sigma, iota sigma, right? Here it's going to be with the connecting vowel, the omicron. Here's going to be probably the alpha. Here's going to be the omicron, if I remember right. But here it's the reverse, sigma iota with a movable nu. And so it's really the same pattern. It's just reversed the iota sigma to sigma iota. And in our accusative, there's the alpha sigma and the alpha, which aligns with our noun rule, what number that is. I don't remember the numbers, but I remember the rule. The accusative, the nominative, and the plural will be the same in the accusative plural for the neuter. And so this is really about recognizing the word. Okay, so the form, its appearance will look different, but its function will be the same. Its definition, its meaning will be the same. Its function will be in accordance to whether it's a nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, singular, plural, but its meaning doesn't change.
Yeah.
It makes sense?
Yeah, it's just what part it plays in the sentence structure.
There you go. That's right. Right. So the difference is third declension follows a different pattern, and sometimes this pattern can be a little more difficult to recognize, and that's what we're going through. All right. Now you can remember this, and this is what you want to know right here. Learn these. All right. This is just like you learned all this, right? Now learn all this. This is the pattern you want to know. And because if you know that, it'll make the rest of it much, much easier. So when you, this is with the stem endings, and we'll, so, with the stem endings, there's our omicron for second declension. This is the lengthened omicron, lengthened, omicron, second declension instant. There's our alpha, eta, same thing. Here's in the plural, we're going to see the alpha, not the eta. Same, there's our second declension, there's our first declension, obviously, up here. And our second declension here, here. And ultimately, in our third declension, our stem endings with case endings is still almost the same. Not a lot of change. And the reason is because it's coming up against a consonant. Go away. Various consonants. Okay, and that's what we're going to learn. Okay. All right. So one of the things that helps tremendously is to remember the articles. One of the things that's hard sometimes is in the third declension, especially when you're talking about is it a masculine or feminine word? Well, the article will always help you if it's there, and oftentimes they are, right? So a feminine article is going to be different, and if you recognize the feminine versus the masculine versus the neuter, then it automatically tells you the gender of the word. I mean, well, I say automatically. There are some things where context will make it a little more difficult or help you. But ultimately, the article can be very helpful, and so you definitely want to know the article. We said that from the very beginning. Here's some 4 hints to help us. The noun stem is best found in the genitive singular. What happens is this is not the stem of the word. The stem is here. And what happens is when a kappa or a certain consonants plus a sigma, it's going to change. In this case, it changes to this exceed. Well, that can make it real difficult if you're going to follow this pattern and you try to figure out the pattern for the singular and the plural, genitive, accusative, genitive, dative, and accusative. If you don't recognize that kappa is there, your pattern will be wrong and it'll be off. So it helps to recognize this, and the way to know it is know the genitive form. So when you look at the lexicon, it'll say sarx, and then it'll have the comma, and then it's going to go. Can't remember if it writes the whole word out or not, but probably just might write the whole word out.
Well, it does that because the kappa and the sigma make that sound anyways.
Well, exactly correct. That kappa, but it's a little misleading because that's not always the case. Not every consonant in the sigma is going to make that same sound. So in this case, that is actually correct. So that in
it's
fact,
just with the kappa.
Yeah. So it'll be. Let me just write. It'll be right. And then it'll have the article for it. So it gives you the stem ending with that kappa there. Okay. So the noun stem is best found in the genitive singular. And that's one hint to figure it out. Another hint is that whatever happens in the nominative singular will also happen in the dative plural. It will always be the same. And the reason is what happens is when a consonant, doesn't really matter it does matter which consonant. When a consonant comes up with a sigma, then it's going to change that consonant. And that sigma occurs in the nominative singular, right? That's our sigma, and in the dative plural, because it's a sigma iota with a movable nu.
Yes, sir.
So that's why the same thing will occur here. Okay, so whatever happens in the nominative singular will also happen in the dative plural. We're going to show you what happens in a minute. Right now, we're just doing an overview. Also, another hint is that when the nu, when it will drop out when it's followed by a sigma. So a word like a tin, which is the stem for a word, plus the sigma, that nu is going to drop out, and you get tis. And that will be the lexical form, but its genitive form will have tenos. You'll have the nu back. The nu comes back in the genitive form. Okay, why does it come back? It's not being followed by a sigma, it's being followed by an omicron.
Yeah.
Here, the nu drops out because a sigma came next to it. Look, nus don't like sigmas and they leave. That's the bottom line. They just don't want to be around a sigma. And so whatever prejudice they have from whatever tradition and historical, they just leave. And that's how nus act. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Okay, tau is very much the same thing. A tau will also drop out when it's followed by a sigma. Okay, so not only the nu, but the tau will drop out when it's followed by a sigma. There's our data plural. And so basically, again, the tau, much like the, so both the nu and the tau really hate the sigma. And they will leave and then go to their own party. Okay. There's another thing that happens with the tau. Well, let me go through the summary here. So the stem sarx is best visible in the genitive, right? So here's the stem with the kappa, and when the sigma is added to the nominative singular, the stem consonant changes. We're going to show you why, but you can see the stem when you get to the genitive form, genitive singular form, okay? And that's in the lexical, the dictionary form, all right? The nominative singular for sarx and the dative plural for sarx will be affected in the same way because they both came up against the sigma, right? The nominative sigma case ending is a sigma. The dative plural case ending is a sigma iota plus a movable nu. And so in both cases, they come up against the sigma, which affects what happens to that consonant. In this case, it's a kappa plus the sigma equals the xi. And that's what happens. The nu is going to drop out when it comes next to the sigma. So here the nu, in both cases, here's the nu with the sigma in the nominative singular and the dative plural, because they occur in both places. And that sigma forces that nu to leave. And you get from not tins, but tis, not tin-c, but tis-c. The tau also does the same thing as the nu when it's followed by the sigma. It will drop out when it's followed by the sigma, and so you get onomasi. But the tau does something else. The tau never likes standing at the end of a word. It will also drop out when it's at the end of the word, and so it's not onomat, it's onoma, because the T left. Make sense?
Yeah.
If you can recognize
these, so weird.
Huh?
I said it's just so weird that they put the tau at the end of it, and it's like, yeah, but we're going to get rid of that at the end of it.
Well, it's important to know. You're right. It's important to know because basically the stem is this is the stem with the tau. I mean, but the tau just doesn't like the sigma, and it doesn't like being the last word, and it has to do with a lot with how they say the words. For whatever reason, the Greek doesn't like to end with a tau on the mat. It doesn't like the and it has to do probably with whatever's coming up next.
Yeah,
and some other word might make it a little more cumbersome. I don't know. And the same thing when it comes up with a sigma, and as you mentioned, a lot of times that sigma plus that consonant actually gives another sound, like the onomats, or onomakat, or sarx. So it's kind of like adding another sound, but it basically just goes away. If you know these 4 hints, you'll do. If you can get comfortable with those, you'll do quite well with the third declensions. Now let's see what actually happens. This is noun rule number 7. There are 8 noun rules, number 7. So number 7 here is called the square of stops. A stop is when a consonant is formed by slowing or stopping the flow of air, right? So certain sounds and consonants are made when you close your lips. Pa, pa, ba, ba, da, or pa, pa. You bring the lips together, you force air out. Pa. You stop the airflow, pop, and like pop, right? So that's called a closing of the lips, or referred to as a labial, right? And then there are some sounds where the tongue comes against the roof of your mouth, the palate, like k, k, or k, your tongue is coming to the roof of your mouth, the palate, and that's how you make that sound. It's called a velar. And then you have other sounds that are really quite common and understandable, dental, because your tongue is really, it's not really touching your teeth, but it's coming up to the back of your teeth, such as the delta, the tau, and those sounds are made by how you form your lips, where your tongue works, whether that be in the palate of your mouth, or whether that be in the back of your teeth. That's how you make those sounds, and so they're called labial, velar, or delta. And so when you look at labials, that is those that are made by stopping the airflow with your lips and then pushing the air out, is the p, the p, the b, the beta, and f, with the phi. So when you add to any of those consonants the sigma, then labials, the p, the b, and the f, will change to c. And so those consonants will change to the I'm trying to think of the Poseidon, pitchfork thing, whatever it's called. I'm trying to be funny. It's not working. Velars, the kappa, the gamma, the xi, all those sounds are made by your tongue coming to the palate, the roof of your mouth. When it comes up against plus the sigma, it's going to change to an xi, just like sarx does, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So we go plus a sigma for the nominative, right? Or plus a sigma iota for a nominative singular, for plus a sigma iota for a data plural.
Yeah.
Then this is going to be
XC.
And this is going to be the that's spelled wrong. And that's what happens to it. And the dental, same thing, the tau, the delta, a theta, our tongue comes up near the back of our teeth. And what happens is those just drop out and the sigma remains. So that plus a sigma means those drop out and we get the sigma. So that's called the square of stops. You have some that are voiceless, some are called voice, and some are aspirate. So this column right here, the labials, is how the sound is made with, the labials are when you're using your lips and you're forcing air out, velars coming from the roof of your mouth, the palate of your tongue hitting the middle of your mouth, the roof, and dentals where the tongue is coming up against near the back of the teeth. A voiceless one, basically, you're not using your voice box. It's not from your voice box. Voice is coming from your voice box. Beh, beh. Aspirates are just really the air flowing aspirates. F, C, theta. So there's different names for those. That's all that really is, I think. So here's the noun rule number 8. Okay. Noun rule number 7 is a square of stops. You do want to know this. If you know this, that will make your life so much easier when you start saying, oh, I see what happened here. That's why that's an C, or that's why that's a C, and that's why that's a sigma. But you also, noun rule 8, a tau cannot stand at the end of a word. It will drop out. So animat is the actual word with the tau for the nominative, but because it's at the end, it drops out, and there's our lexical form, anima, meaning name or reputation. So when you look it up, you can't look up animat. If you do, you won't see it. You'll find anima instead, and that is the nominative singular form for name or reputation. You'll also remember that. Okay, so here's why this kind of matters. What halagos, what declension and gender is that?
It's second declension.
Okay, what gender?
Masculine.
Masculine. You know that for a couple of reasons, right? Second declension is because the Omicron stem ending or connecting vowel. And you also know, of course, because of the article helps you a lot, and you know the case ending for the second declension masculine is a sigma, right?
Yeah.
If it was a noun, that would be a dative or a neuter. Well, logos is not neuter; it's a masculine word, so it will never be a neuter.
Yeah.
Okay, so here it is, a nominative masculine singular, right? What about here, sarcos? Here's our third declension, right? Right, and but notice it has the omicron as well. So you can easily kind of get confused. Omicron sigma, huh? Wait a minute. All right. Well, it's not a second declension word. It's not a masculine word. It is a feminine word. How do I know it's a feminine word? Well, I can't really tell by looking at that. I can by telling by looking at the article. That's a feminine. I can know it's genitive if I realize that that is a third declension word. If I recognize that kappa is the stem ending, sark. And my omicron sigma is a genitive form for the feminine singular for sarx, meaning flesh. Okay. And notice this word here, ta ethnos. Again, an omicron sigma ending. Well, it's not going to be second declension or first declension. This is going to be our third declension because of that kappa. This is going to be our third declension because of the noon. It's not a masculine word. It's not a feminine word. It's a neuter word. I could tell because of the article. But also, this is a little bit harder. In this particular case, lots of things have occurred. So it's not really the actual case ending is the epsilon sigma for the nominative and the accusative. This can be nominative or accusative. And the reason is because it is the epsilon sigma. And what happens when the let's see if I can remember this. Oh, hold on, let me look it up. I looked it up this morning and I've now forgotten it. So let me look it up real quick. Nouns 3D2 is what it was. Later on, I'm going to order you this book, but right now I think it'd be a little overwhelming, so I don't. Okay. All right. So.
Yeah, I'd hate for Greek to be overwhelming.
Yeah, I know it. It's normally simple, and we don't want to make it complex. Okay, so what happens here is, yeah, all right. So what happens here is when you have this epsilon sigma come up against the nu, it's called intervocalic. Well, that means this vowel is stuck in the middle, and a vowel hates being stuck in the middle. So ultimately, what happens is this sigma will drop. Let's see. So the vowel drops off. So that vowel will drop off. So it goes to the new sigma. Well, what happens to the new when the sigma? Oh wait, I think I got this wrong. The stem of the sigma becomes intervocalic and drops out. The sigma of the stem becomes and drops out, and the nominative and the vocative singular of the final stem vowel undergoes an ablaut. That's a change. So yeah, all right. So oh yeah, so this I remember. Okay, I got it. Let me fix this. This does not really have to be learned, but what happens is that the sigma drops out because it's called intervocalic. This vowel doesn't like to be trapped between the consonants like that, with a sigma. So the sigma drops out, and then oftentimes when something changes, like something drops out, the Greek wants to compensate for that. So it would lengthen this to the Omicron, and there's a rules that does that for. And then we have our case ending here with the sigma, and now we get this ethnos in the nominative and the accusative for the neuter singular. The point being is this Omicron sigma is not the same Omicron sigma in all cases.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get to. A lot of things happen here because of this, some rules that we haven't got to yet. And I'm not sure I really have a strong handle on it myself, to be honest. So we'll have to play with it a little more deeper later on as we go into this. Does this make sense? You okay? You see what's happening?
Yeah, I see what's happening here.
Okay. All right. So again, declensions are patterns, right? So we have a 2-1-2 pattern. You've learned second declension for masculine words, feminine declension, first declension for feminine words, second declension for neuter words, such as agathos. And so we'll see there's our second declension masculine. There's our neuter, our nominative. There's our feminine. This is an adjective. We're really looking at adjective here. This is an adjective with the eta. And so that's going to be the feminine form of it, and that's going to be the neuter form of it. So the good man, the good woman, the good book. Right? Good man, good woman, good book. Got it?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
all right.
Sir.
Third declension, there's a 3-1 pattern, right? A 3-1 pattern would be for the masculine, feminine. So some words will, in fact, follow the first declension, even though the masculine follows a third declension, and the neuter follows a third declension pattern, such as the word pas, asa, or pont, right? These are adjectives. Adjectives are going to be much more flexible because, remember, they got to align with the word it's modifying.
Yeah.
You got to agree with it. So here's our nominative in a third declension pattern. It's a third declension pattern because that's actually the, I think if I remember right, and I'm going to memory, pon is the actual, is it pon? I think that's the stem ending for that. And I'm going to go through this in the book in a minute. Oh, it's punt. That's right. So it has the tau ending. So that's the stem of the word punt. And we're going to look at that in a minute. So there are 3-1-3 patterns. There are 2-2 patterns, such as ionios, ionion, where everything follows a second declension pattern. So some words are going to follow nothing but second declension. Ionios, ionion. There's our masculine, feminine would be this, and the neuter would be this, and ultimately it means eternal.
Mm-hmm.
Third declension, 3-3, third declension, third declension, third declension. Such as the word tis, and that's obviously ends with a consonant. It's tin. Is that what it is? We just did it a minute ago. Yeah, tin is its stem. So words are going to follow certain patterns. That's all this is bringing out, and I want you to see that. All right, let's talk about this pos word. This is on your book and page 104.
Yeah, I got it. Yes, sir.
Okay, so now adjectives can be much more flexible, and they have to be able to align with or to agree with whatever words are modifying. And so when we have, you've already seen the adjectives in first declension and second declension. Now we're seeing adjectives that are third declension patterns, okay? And this word, pos, is actually from punt. And notice it has a stem ending in a consonant. That makes it third declension. So what happens, what is our ending for the nominative singular? It's a sigma. What happens when the sigma comes against the tau? Well, the tau drops out. Well, that leaves the noon. What happens when the sigma comes against the noon? Same thing, the noon drops out. So you get pos. There you go. Okay. Now, in the genitive form, you'll see the noon tau back because here's our case ending, right? The Omicron sigma.
Yeah.
Okay. In the dative form, you see it's back, and here's our dative singular, and there's our iota case ending. In the accusative, you see it's back, and there's our third declension case ending for masculine. In the nominative plural, again, it's back because our case ending is the iota sigma. It's back in the genitive plural, and we have our case ending of omega nu. So remember, learn those case endings, right? In the dative plural, it's not, the nu tau is gone. Why? Because it comes up against that sigma. Our case ending is the sigma iota with a movable nu. In the accusative plural, there's our nu tau, and it comes up against the case ending of omicron sigma. If you go back to this chart, there's our case endings that we just looked at.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with the plural, right?
Yeah.
All right, so, and let's stay in the third declension, all right? Well, we won't switch to the first yet. So this particular word can be a third declension, follows a third declension for masculine, it's modifying a masculine word. Now, pos isn't masculine, pos is not neuter, pos is not feminine. Pos is an adjective, and it will take a masculine form, a feminine form, or a neuter form if it's modifying a masculine word, a feminine word, or a neuter word, right? So that's why the flexibility. So third declension neuter form, and again, we're seeing the same thing. We're seeing what's the case ending for the neuter? It's nothing. So pot. Well, what happens to
Because
the tau? It comes up
the
against nothing.
tau doesn't like standing alone.
There you go. So it drops out. Oh, let me get this out of your way here. Sorry. And so it drops out. So you just get pon. And there's our case ending, or excuse me, our stem ending with our case ending, omicron sigma. There's our nu tau stem ending with our iota for the dative singular case ending. It doesn't subscript because it's not coming up against a long vowel, it's coming up against consonant. And here we have what's going to be here is going to be here. And it's for the same reason, right? That tau dropped off when it comes up against nothing. It doesn't like to stand alone. In the plural, same thing. Our case ending is the alpha, both in the nominative plural and the accusative plural. And so the nu tau and the nu tau remains, the nu tau in the genitive, and we have our omega nu, which is so consistent over and over. Love that form. And then our dative plural, once again, that nu tau is gone for the same reason. It's because it comes up against the sigma iota with a movable nu. And so you get passi or passing, depending. So there's your third declension. It's not complex. You just got to know what happens when the square stops, noun rule 7, and what happens with noun rule 8 with the tau. So what happens when the sigma comes against a nu? What happens when the sigma comes against a tau? What happens when the sigma comes against a labial or a velar or a dental? And those will, you'll be able to just follow the pattern. In this particular, for its first declension feminine, its feminine ending is what? Eta. So really, there is no stem ending. So it has the eta or alpha, alpha or eta. There's our genitive form. Here's our dative subscript with the eta, it's a long vowel. Here's our noon ending for the accusative. Here's our iota ending, and now we have our stem ending, our omega nu. So it follows our first declension pattern. It's the exact same pattern we've already seen, nothing new, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just learning how that sigma really affects
Yeah,
a lot of what these words will look like.
exactly. So there's this adjective pos, meaning all, or well, it can mean every or each in the singular form. It can mean all in the plural form, right? And so the other thing I want to bring out in our page, and look in, bring out one more thing here. Go to page, I don't have a chart on it, but let's go to page, two more things. Go to page 99, look at 10.11. 10.11 is the word, let me see if I can just, I don't think I got a blank slide somewhere. These aren't blank. By the way, if
I
it
got
tells you, huh?
I got 10.11.
Okay, so the word tis and the word tis are two different words. when this accent is on the first the first syllable, right? Then this is going to function as an interrogative.
So it's
what do you do when you interrogate somebody? You ask them what, why, when. So it's interrogative. All right. So it's a question. It will almost always end with a question mark, which is what we refer to as semicolon in English, right? So it's functioning as an interrogative pronoun. When it does not have it on the first syllable, okay, it may have it on the last syllable, but when it's not on the first syllable, then it's functioning not as the interrogative, but as a I went blank here.
Indefinite pronoun.
Indefinite. That's right. Indefinite pronoun. Indefinite means like anytime, someone,
anyone,
all that kind of stuff, right? So indefinite could be, hey, there's no definite. Just could be anyone. Could be somewhere. Could be anywhere. Those kind of things. All right. So when there is no article or when there's no accent on the first syllable, yeah. When there's no accent on the first syllable, then it's going to be an indefinite versus interrogative. Now, regardless, tis is actually 10. There's our third declension, right? And it's a noun. So what happens when a noun comes up against sigma? It drops out.
yes.
And so that's why we get tis. And so you can see and follow the rules, the exact same rules that we just saw on third declensions. And so it follows that here, and you'll see those at the top of page 99. Also, the word, let me clear all this.
Yeah, because in the genitive singular, it's tenos because the
Right.
omicron sigma.
There you go. You see the new comes back. Yeah, all right. So also this word ace, or haste, excuse me. This is a rough breathing with a circumflex. Rough breathing. It's the number one, or it's the adjective one. You know, one dog, one person, one whatever, right? And it's going to follow. Its actual stem is hane. And so it's a third declension, and it's going to follow the same kind of patterns. When it comes up against the sigma, right, the nu is going to drop out, and you get ace. Now, what happens here is this. Let me do this again. Hold on a minute. What happens here is, let's say, here's our word, and we're going to add a sigma. And what happens is we get ace, we get that word. But because the nu drops, because that nu dropped out, then this vowel wants to compensate for it. It's called compensatory lengthening. So it's going to lengthen to epsilon iota, and we get the final sigma, and it was a rough breathing, and it's haste, and that's what happens to it. Okay, so basically,
that follows one of our
it's going to follow our third declension pattern for masculine, right?
But it follows that rule as far as vowels often change their length.
Right. Yeah. Vowels will often ablaut. It will often change their length. In this case, it's compensatory lengthen because the noon dropped out. It feels compelled to lengthen to make an adjustment for it, and that's really what happened. So, but here we have the nominative. We see is from in, and we end up with haste. And in the genitive, basically, we go back to our epsilon nu, and we add our case ending. And the dative, the same thing, the epsilon nu. These are all with rough breathings, by the way, and our circumflex. Here it's not. We got the accent there. We got our, in the dative, we're going to get the iota and add the iota to it, just like in following the third declension pattern. And in the accusative singular, we get the alpha. And this has got the rough breathing with that. And this will have a rough breathing, All right, and there's our masculine. Now, there's a different feminine word for one. It's called Mia. And it's going to follow first declension pattern. I think that's right. Yeah. So mias will be the next one. Mia with a subscript iota, and the accusative was going to be the mion with the removable nu added to it. So there's our feminine, right? And then the same thing for the neuter. It's going to follow. It's got the epsilon nu, and there's no case ending. The nu, if it was a tau, the tau would drop off, but it's not. It's a nu. So there's no sigma, so it just stays. And again, you got the omicron sigma there, and then the iota for a third declension singular dative, and again the no ending here. So basically, rough breathing, and on double line. So now there's no plural because it's the number one. There's no, you can't pluralize one. So it's just singular. I think that's what I wanted to bring out. Any thoughts or questions? We'll go through vocabulary very quick, and then you'll have to get ready for your next class.
No, sir. I think I'm picking up this side of it. It's just learning that, more the differences of case endings, but it's neat to see how they still follow that same, pretty much that same rules as far as.
Yeah. Well, there are 8 noun rules. You want to know those 8 noun rules, okay? You want to be comfortable with them. I can't remember the numbers, but I know the 8 noun rules. Square stops is really important for third declension, as is noun rule number 8, dealing with the tau, and of course the noon. Having it doesn't drop off, but it will. It doesn't drop off at the end of a word, but it will drop off when it comes up against a sigma, just like the tau does. So you definitely know those. Let's go through vocabulary then, very quickly, and talk a little bit about some things here. Okay, you want to pronounce the word for me?
Hagios.
Hagios. With the H, the rough breathing sound.
Hagios. Yes,
okay.
Sir.
All right. Now, what does that mean?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I cannot remember to say
Holy.
Holy.
Holy, holy, holy. All right. So hagios. And is this a noun or an adjective?
Would be an adjective.
Yeah, you could see that it's going to have a feminine and a neuter ending. Here's our masculine, feminine, and neuter ending. Now, is this a first or second or third declension? This one right here. And this one. And this one.
What's a second declension on that first one?
Second, okay.
Because the omicron, and then first, and then second. It's a 2-1-2.
2-1-2, right. That's exactly right. Okay, good. All right, and here's the word a for if, and can mean if, or, well, typically if. For time's sake, you can read these in the book. A may is except or if not. Here's the word we just did, ace with the rough breathing, haste, mia or hen, right? And here we have again the 3-1-3 pattern, right?
Yes, sir.
Because this is really the hen. A day, what do you know a day means? Do you know it?
Now or already.
Exactly. Anima, which is the word we were looking at earlier. What does anima mean?
The name?
Yeah, name or reputation. So anima, and it's a third, first, or second declension word.
It would be a first.
Okay, you want to look again? See, when you're looking at that might be your first thought, right? Anima. But look at the genitive form.
It ends in a tau.
Right. So it ends in a tau for its and what happened to the tau over here? Well, it doesn't like to stand alone at the end of the word
That's right.
because a third declension nominative has no ending. So the tau dropped off and you get
That's right.
anamon.
So it's third declension.
It is a third
It
declension.
ends in
That's
a.
right.
That's
And
right.
it's a
Okay.
neuter word, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Uh, udes, udemia, excuse me, udemia and uden. There are our one, right? One in the masculine, one in the feminine, one in the neuter, right? Udes, udemia, uden. What does it mean?
No one, none, or nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But you see, there's the words you've already learned for haste with the rough breathing, Mia and Hain, hen for the rough breathing for the neuter form. Yeah. Okay, pasa or pan. Well, that's an adjective, right? And we have our what? Give me our declension forms. What pattern is this following? What does it mean?
What does it mean?
Yeah.
Each, every, and all.
So each and every would be single, but all would be plural, right?
Yeah.
And this follows a 3-1-3 pattern, right?
Yeah, because it ends in that tau
Right.
again.
It's is it panta punt,
Punt.
right?
And the
And
yeah, because the sigma comes up, it doesn't like the sigma,
there you go. Right.
and then it can't stand by itself in the neuter because taus don't like standing by themselves.
Correct. All right, Peri, like good old Peri, Paris, Peri.
It's concerning or about in the genitive and around in the accusative.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a preposition. And sarcos, hey. So you've already done this. It means what?
Body,
Flesh,
flesh.
not body. Well, it can mean body. Typically, it's going to be flesh. There's a
Okay.
different word for body. It can mean flesh or body, but there's a different word for body. Soma, which is our next coming up here in a minute. But again, this is our third declension. You can see here in the genitive form, and we see what happened with that kappa when it came up against. So that is a labial. It comes up against the sigma, and it changes to the xi,
Yeah.
and that's why we have that there. Okay,
Yeah.
and it's a feminine word. Notice this. Remember, our third declension can be masculine or feminine, but here this word is it cannot be masculine; it's only feminine. So if we're just talking about that pattern, following a masculine, third declension masculine words, third declension feminine words follow the same pattern. Soon,
With.
right? It's a dative form. It's always in the dative form. Means with. Soma. Here's that body.
That's body.
Okay. Another thing, when a word ends in this is so
So
uh,
mot.
mot, right? When a word ends in mot, it's always neuter. Always.
Okay.
So it's always going to be a neuter word. So every word that ends in mot will be a neuter word. Never masculine, never feminine. So soma is body, it's neuter. Here's our genitive form. You see that tau came back,
Mhm.
and somat with the genitive form os, and we see the neuter article. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. And technon, once again, we have the noon stem ending, and technon, I think that's right.
Yeah. Uh,
Oh, no, no, no. That's incorrect.
techna.
Technon, that's incorrect. It's not the stem. Here's the stem ending right here,
Yeah,
technon.
the omicron.
Right. So we have the noon with our genitive form and our dative. So is this first, second, or third declension?
It would be first or second. I mean,
Okay, masculine or neuter?
neuter.
Yeah, exactly. Right, right. It has to be neuter. and you have this noon ending here for the nominative case, right? So
Mhm.
we have noon for the nominative and noon for the accusative singular, and there's our article. So, okay, tis or t would be the genitive form.
And that's
Uh,
a
well,
since
not
it
t.
has that, it's accusative,
This is
or not
a two,
accusative, but
or 3-3. I mean, yeah, excuse me.
investigative. So it's who, what,
Interrogative. Interrogative.
interrogative. It's who,
Investigative. Right. Right. Okay.
interrogative. So who, what, which, they,
Who,
or
what,
which.
why. Not so much which, I don't think. I don't know, it could be, but I haven't looked at it. Well, which is part of it. Yeah, I just looked at it. It is which. So. All right, tis or t without the accent mark.
And it's asking, I can't remember the
It's the indefinite pronoun.
indefinite. So it's asking, or it's like
All
anyone, somebody.
right, it's indefinite. Anyone, somebody, anywhere. Right now, if we go tis and we lengthen it and we say tis for its for the kind of remember. I'm trying to remember what. Let me look at something real quick. 10. Yeah, okay, so if we go in the genitive form, this is our date or our nominative, right? No article or no accent. Go to the genitive, we get our stem ending back. We get the omicron sigma, and we put an accent there. So the accent's still not over here, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's still the indefinite pronoun. That's the one I want to highlight. You may have
It's
an
just
accent,
over that.
but it won't be over the first syllable.
Yeah, it's over that iota
The
part of it.
ultimate, right? The omicron.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
and that's it, buddy. Good. Makes sense.
It does. It does. I'm going to do some more studying and reading over the chapter this week.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely takes a little bit of absorption, and I think one of the reasons they put this further down is you sort of need a foundation. So kind of like, okay, I see how things are working, and then you're applying what you already know to this third declension, and then you're seeing some things that you haven't seen before that are new. Kind of like, okay, these noun rule number 7 with the square stops. When the sigma comes up against these consonants, it's going to affect it. When a sigma comes up against the noon or the tau, it's going to affect it.
Yeah.
But you can see the pattern, and but having a foundation before you get to there really, really helps. All right, brother. Appreciate it.
No, thank you, Mr. Dave.
All right, I'll let you get ready for your next class, and we'll. Hey, listen. The other thing is that I don't grade the homework, but I need to know the homework is done to give
Oh,
you a overall grade. It's kind of a pass-fail thing. So when you do Friday, if you have questions for homework, go over that with the guys. But I probably need to at least see the homework that it's done. Is all. Okay.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
No, no, no. I never really explained it. You don't need to apologize for anything. Okay.
All right.
I think that's it, bro. All right, man. We'll shut up.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye.